Welcome to another episode of the Jersey Podcast. I'm your host, Darian Kelly. Today, I have an exceptional guest on the show today, Jessica Campbell. Jessica is the founder and CEO of PO3 Agency, as well as OPPER. She's also co-host of Sports for Positivity podcast. Jessica, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to learning a little bit more about you. And just for starters, just catch me up on how's the summer been for you so far? Like, what are some of the things that you've, been working on, up until this point?
It's been amazing and the weather's beautiful, which is always great. I'm getting to work outside a little bit. But besides that, I just launched OPPER officially. It's something I've been working on for a year now. So the buildup has been crazy and definitely a wild ride, but that was just announced last week. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that is probably the biggest thing of the summer for me right now, on top of a bunch of work trips to Nashville, Cincinnati, Dallas, working with a lot of athletes and teams, but OPPER is taking over my summer for sure.
Absolutely. No, that's great that you're getting to travel. And like you said, we're going to get into OPPER a little bit more, down the line within the episode, but wanted to just start from the beginning. Okay. For you growing up, like, what were some of your, your early experiences, with sports like that you can recall coming up?
Of course. So I'm a triplet. I have two brothers. And I think that kind of explains it right there. We played all of the sports and it was majority rules in this household. So we would always be watching sports games and doing kind of active things like that, which I love. So there was no problem there. But I grew up watching all the LA sports on top of the Toronto Raptors. That's my team. My family's from Canada. Nice. So those are definitely the tops, but one of the biggest things was I used to sit so close to the TV and I would watch Kobe Bryant play on the Lakers, even though he wasn't on my team. And I remember my mom would be walking by and I would look so close, and I definitely don't have good eyesight, so I had to be that close. And I said, why is he doing that? Why not this? Why not this? And she goes, pay closer attention. You'll learn, you'll watch, you'll see. And so I think that was one of the coolest things that I remember from when I was little, because that made me analyze it a little bit more instead of playing it. I played basketball until I was in 8th grade, and then I decided to dance after that. But I think if people like Sue Bird and Sabrina Ionesco were around when I was that age, maybe I would have stayed playing basketball. Right. But it's definitely something that I've loved since a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was listening to one of the podcasts you did, in which I believe it was Sports for Positivity episode with I believe it's Kelsey Training, in which you were talking about your experiences with dance and how, essentially you started out playing basketball, but then you got into dance. And what, I guess, kind of, this is leading up to, your experiences at Pepperdine, but like, what kind of brought you back to sports in a sense when you were like going through those like young years, as you were, experiencing dance, like what brought you back into the mix with sports?
Well, it's funny because I always look back on different experiences and I realize the things that I learned in that time and how I'm able to apply them now. And when I was in middle school, this is a little bit off topic, but I decided to go against what was cool. And I did the video class and I learned all about editing. Flash forward, in high school, I was actually the video editor for all of the sports teams' rally videos. So I did like the football hype video, basketball hype videos, baseball, and things like that. And then flash forward into college, I was interning for ESPN's John R. Wooden Award, and I got to do all of the graphics for the top players at that time, like Trae Young, DeAndre Ayton, Luka, Asia Wilson, and so many different athletes. And so all because of the things I had learned, I was able to apply knowledge in that space. And so the time at the Wooden Award was definitely that moment for me where it was, I have a career here. I'm good at what I'm doing. I see the opportunity for the first time. And before I was in that position, I had never known that there could be so many different sides to the sports industry. I mean, you talk about sports tech and entrepreneurship, but I feel like up until now, really, you've either wanted to become a general manager, the president of a team, an agent, or an athlete. But there's so many people that make up those moving parts. And that was the first time I was part of that situation. So that was definitely something that catapulted me into where I am.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you touched on, what was, more or less my sentiments coming up, because growing up, like there weren't, ideally, like we've all had hoop dreams, or we all had, dreams of like making it to the league or becoming a professional athlete. But there weren't a lot of people when I was coming up in school that were like, GMs of sports teams or the VP of marketing coming to the schools, or, saying, hey, you can have a career in sports. So more or less like you, I didn't know there was opportunities in sports to very some like later in my career. One of the things that you mentioned was, your experience with, your internship with with John R. Wooden and ESPN. You found your calling.
Yes.
A lot of people have careers, a lot of people, what do you mean? Like, what is your calling, or like, how did you find your calling within that experience?
It was definitely a point where I saw for the first time a future in doing something. So I went to school for communications and marketing. I've always loved sports, but until then, like that path for me never really clicked. And then all of a sudden my graphics were on Sports Center and ESPN and on all the top college teams like Instagrams. And I was helping ESPN produce the Wooden Award at the Conga Room and LA Live. Like
Right.
that was a huge eye-opening moment for me. And I think I was 18 or 19 at the time. And so it was very, I guess, transformative. And my boss at the time, Ernest Baskerville, is one of my favorite people on planet Earth. He and I actually, after the internship ended, COVID started, and the world was so negative. So he and I still wanted to work together, and we formed the podcast, which you've mentioned, called Sports for Positivity. And that was kind of that next moment where I was like, okay, this is something else I can do in sports. And we interviewed, I mean, the greats, Hall of Famers like Ralph Sampson, we have Jim Rooney, we have Ryan Hollins and Eric Dickerson and all of these different guys. And I was 20 interviewing them at the time as a woman. And that's not very common. And so, and at that time, I had to learn to carry myself a different way and to know every single stat they were going to bring up before someone else could. I knew the history of where they played. I knew what was going on in their personal life at the time, in society at the time, so that I could be the first one to speak on a subject that maybe people my age or in my shoes wouldn't even know about. So that's how I kind of had to learn to establish myself in that space. And I remember in Ryan Holland's interview, that was the first time someone had said a professional like you in the industry to me. And that moment I will remember for the rest of my life, because that was, again, point probably number two, where I was like, okay, someone who's been in the NBA for 13 years just called me a professional while interviewing him about a sport at 20 years old.
Right.
Crazy. And so from there, I did all of the marketing for the show. I did the sponsorships, activations, interviews, and things like that with Ernest. And three of the clients from that show and surrounding the show actually asked me to do marketing for them and for their businesses or themselves and their personal brand. And that's where PO3 came about. But it was all of those little steps along the way and saying yes to different opportunities that kind of opened up all the doors to where I am now. And we have 90 plus clients in the sports and entertainment space, lifestyle, beauty, fashion, music, influencers, models. Crazy the portfolio we have now. But again, it's that path of, I had no idea I was going to be here when I was in college. I would have thought I would have been at a sports team somewhere, but now I actually get to travel and be part of so many different organizations, which is beautiful. But again, it's all about the different doors that open for me, and it's not self-made. I would not be a person standing here without everyone else that's helped me along the way. So definitely long-winded answer, but it's a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that, one of the things that you said that was very, very, kind of like the light bulb went off my head is just as a woman, working in sports, like you got your start at 20. What was, was there like any, like from a mental standpoint, like you said, you had to be on point with everything that you did. And, for you, a lot of people can attest, a lot of women in sports can attest to that, but like, what were some of the, I guess, mental, I mean, like, how did you prepare for that? Just having to understand like your place and what you've, your place in sports and what you wanted to carve out and like what you represent as a woman in sports. Like, how did you make that mental shift to understand, okay, this is much bigger than, than I thought, like what took place?
Definitely have to look down a little bit deep and see who you are as a person, what you believe in, what you want to support, and then just know that from the beginning. And then on top of that, before I would interview anybody, I would LinkedIn, Google search, social media stalk, all of these different things. And it's definitely necessary. You need to be prepared for every single thing. And that's what I realized as I became more prepared. I learned industry specific knowledge. I knew the terms that they used in the NFL versus the MLB versus the NHL. And there's so many things that are similar in each organization, but they're called something different. And
Right.
so I wanted to make sure that I was knowledgeable when we were talking about different things and not saying, oh, is this what you were talking about? I never wanted to be questioned. I never wanted to be looked down upon. I never didn't want to know an answer. And of course, I'm not perfect and I don't know the answer to a lot of things, but I know how to look it up. I know who to ask, or I know how to find it, and I'll get back to you. And so it was that kind of mentality. But on top of that, it's like, why can't I do it?
Right.
Why not me? So what if I'm young? So what if I'm a woman? Other people are doing it. Guys are doing it. I can do it, you know, and it's about stepping outside of yourself and not being scared. I mean, at that point, the world was shut down. Like I had nothing else to lose. You know what I mean? So it was all of that combined into one, and it's still stuff that I put into practice every single day.
Certainly. And when you were starting, going from, sports for positivity and starting, the PO3 agency, what were some of the challenges, that you have, when you were starting that, like, what was that time like, building up to launch in PO3?
It was very quick, to be completely honest with you. It happened very fast. I opened up the agency in February of 2021, actually on Valentine's Day. So it's like my love, but no, it was very, very quick. And so I had to make decisions pretty quickly. It's something that I guess for a few months I had been sitting with, and I carefully designed the logo and the color schemes and the website. But as soon as I, accepted those first 3 clients, everything kind of happened like that. And there was so much learning that still needed to happen. And I had no idea how to start a business. And so much researching. And now I've started, a second one and things like that. But there was so much I had to learn along the way that has set me up for, again, where I am today, kind of referencing back what we talked about in the beginning. But if if I didn't seize that opportunity, if I didn't say I'll try it, and if it doesn't work, I'll do something else, I mean, I have no idea where I would be.
Absolutely. And talk a little bit about, the different, the different services that PO3 agency offer, for athletes, because you guys have a lot of services. What are those, and explain a little more about that.
We do. So we are a full service social media marketing and public relations agency, and we do a lot with companies and brands, but we also do a lot with athletes. And so some of the things we do for them is number one, resume building. As a college athlete and a professional athlete, they often don't have any time for anything else or any internships or jobs or experiences. And ultimately, their time in the league is going to end. So we want to make sure they're prepared, or at least have some type of volunteering or entrepreneurship, or maybe starting a charity in their city kind of experience, so that as soon as they get cut or injured or whatever it may be, they have a plan. They have something else to fall back on. Number two, what we'll do with them is social media management. So right now, social media is a huge thing for athletes. If you can get a sponsorship, if you have a ton of followers, you instantly have that fan base that if you get signed with a team, your fan base is going to follow you there. And so that's just an asset to whatever team that get drafted to or traded to. But we manage their social media. We'll do content with them. We'll do a bunch of different video shoots. We'll do reels and TikTok and full form videos or commercials or whatever it may be. We also help with sponsorship. So we reach out for them and, make those connections between companies and athletes. And then we also offer, if they want to do a camp or help starting a charity or business, that's things we can definitely do. We just did a camp with Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Trenton Irwin in Los Angeles, California. It was amazing. We had 25 other professional coaches there that were current or retired pro NFL players. And it was completely free for students. We had 200 kids there from the East Coast, from all over California, all over the United States. It was crazy that they had flown in for that day, but just putting something special on for the community and for those kids, and it was free, and we had so many volunteers there. And on top of that, all of the 25 coaches pre-decided on an attribute they were going to look for besides their talent. So maybe best listener, kind-hearted, respectful, diligent, and all of those personal attributes that, if you're in fifth through, or whatever it was, fifth through eighth grade, it sticks a little bit deeper to you than, work on your tackles or get better footwork, you know what I mean? And so to have an NFL player come up to you and say, "Hey, buddy, I really saw your heart out there.
Right.
You are awesome at this. Keep going, keep pushing." So it's creating little moments like that too. And it's something so special for them. We have a few more camps coming up in the future doing that kind of thing, both baseball and football, but a whole bunch of stuff for athletes. So it's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you said that really stuck out to me was that the fact that you had a camp in which the awards were based off of attributes. Because me personally, like I remember, going to, basketball camps as a kid. I remember went to 5-star camp, and we used to get awards for, different, 3-point and knockout. And, if you didn't get a shirt or you didn't get anything, it was like you left the camp feeling devastated. And it's like, as we, and it's ironic because one of the biggest hurdles that we see in sports is connecting with youth, right? A lot of ways in which, we came up as far as, consuming sports is a lot different. And I think that with, you have a platform like yours and, the camps that you do as far as, saying like, hey, I like how you communicate it. Like those are things that it's more about the lessons about sports rather than just the wins and losses. And I like that, your platform, really focuses on that because that's what's needed. I think that we get so caught up in, the tangible things or the wins and losses. And it's bigger than that when it comes to sports.
Especially the life lessons you learn as a kid. I mean, I think every kid should be in sports. It honestly doesn't matter which one. You just learn so much life and skills and just different things that you need. Everyone should do it.
Absolutely. And you talked about the different services that you offer for athletes. Given that, we're living in a time where, NIL is big, social media is big, there's a lot of moving pieces. Why is that, why are these services, important? I know you said that, they might hurt themselves or they may not make it to the league, but I think that those skills that you develop from, being involved in social media, talk about like why those services are like why more athletes should be more aware of those services and the importance of that for longevity.
Well, first and foremost, you develop a fan base, and that's always an asset to have as an athlete because you can form a different brand. Maybe you want to sell something, maybe you want to become a coach, maybe you want to make money off of social media, and you definitely can do that. So that's number one. Number two, you establish credibility in your field. So maybe a football player didn't make it to the NFL, but we're going to be in the USFL or the XFL or maybe the CFL, whatever it is. And they suddenly become the spokesperson of those leagues because no one else is doing it. So you're going to talk about the facilities, you're going to talk about your training regimen, what you eat in a day. I mean, all of those different things on top of teaching skills, maybe. So how to throw a ball, how to catch. If you want to get better footwork, these are the drills you need to do. And so suddenly you're a voice for that position that you're in. You're going to get a fan base, you're going to get a lot of followers, you're going to get some sponsorships with that. And then suddenly you're so much more credible. Now, when you try it for the NFL, your odds might be a little bit better because you have created something for yourself that's of value now. And so that's another big asset. Talking about college athletes, if they can be involved in NIL right now, you learn so many valuable skills. You can be D1, D2, D3, it doesn't matter. As long as you're eligible and your school allows it and your state allows it, you learn contract negotiation. You know how to fulfill a contract. You suddenly are experienced in content creation. You know how to film a video, edit a video, write a script. You can storyboard it, and you're going to be so much better prepared for life after college. If you don't make it, 2% of athletes go pro, 98% don't. So why can't those 98% set themselves up and have real world experience, job experience, money in their pocket, and can move on to a different stage in their life after that? But at least at the time, they're capitalizing on what they do have and are going to make something for themselves that's just going to be beneficial later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that NIL, in the beginning would get a lot of flack because it's like, you're giving money to these young kids. They don't know how to manage money. They don't know how to, they don't know what it's like to be in the real world. Where I think that I look at it differently, where, NIL has, like you said, allowed for athletes, young athletes to get more exposure to life skills, not just life skills, but more so professional skills. So it actually benefits them, a lot more. So they're able to, survive and thrive in different environments that they're in, which is, a good transition into OPPER, right? So there are many, not many, but there are a few, NIL platforms out there that are, connecting athletes to, business opportunities, et cetera. What makes, talk a little bit about OPPER and, what makes this platform different from other NIL
Mhm.
platforms that are out there?
So a lot of NIL platforms right now are also for professional athletes. So they have pros on there and they have college athletes on there. And so from what I've seen from the business perspective is all the pros get the attention and then the college kids, maybe the top 10 best players that are on the app get all the attention. Now suddenly there's so many students that are on the app waiting for something, they're actively looking and they never get a chance because it's kind of diluted with all of the pros. Now not saying that that might not happen on OPPER, I don't know, but we definitely don't want pros on there, so this platform is just for college athletes. I actually have had athletes come to me that are on those other platforms to work with them on sponsorships personally instead of being on an app because they said that the other apps weren't working for them. They weren't getting attention and things like that. And I'm not about naming names or anything like that, but that's kind of where that was maybe halfway through my journey of creating the app. And I was able to tweak some things and say, okay, we're going to do this instead of this. And we're going to promote it this way instead of this way and just create a better space and a more fair opportunity just for college students. Because, like I said, you can be D1, D2, D3 as long as we're here to make that connection easier. So companies, it's like a job board basically. PO3 agency can put on, we're looking for 10 college athletes to represent this brand and you're going to get X amount of money and you have to do a post, a reel, and a TikTok. Now athletes can go in and apply and just click of a button, their application is their profile, and we've built it out that way so it's again easy, it's a time saver. College athletes don't have time on their hands, right? And so they just click apply, the company gets the notification, they're able to go through and then accept or deny whoever it is they choose. So we're just making that connection easier, and it stemmed from I was connecting a lot of my clients with college athletes or with professional athletes, and it was time consuming. I mean, the research, the reach out, and all these things. And I was sitting one morning and I was like, my God, there has to be a better way. And I was researching and I was looking at these different platforms and I'm like, this isn't what I need. And so I created what I needed. And it was definitely a long process. And I know there are other options out there, but there's a place for everybody. And if you want to be on all of them, go ahead. You're now increasing your chances. So it's a numbers game. Ultimately, you have to spend the time and you have to go through and apply, but you also have to do the work behind the scenes and prepare your social media too to make yourself attractive to those brands. If you don't put the work in that way, just like on the field, if you don't practice your craft, you're not going to execute well in the game. So if you don't spend the time to craft your social media, your image, your personal brand, no one's going to want to work with you. And people don't realize that. They think that you have to be a D1 player. They think you have to have upwards of 10,000 followers. You do not. You just don't. You just have to have a good platform with examples of what you can do on it. If you are all about health and wellness, do some reels about your day in the life cooking or day in the life as a college athlete. You can start off with your meal prep and then going to practice and going to games and going back to practice and then having your meeting and then working out and then coming back for the day. But all of those steps in the way, someone can be your protein powder, someone can be your shoes, someone can be your hat, someone can be the weight room equipment that you have, someone can be your dinner. And so you just have to promote yourself in that way, and companies will come in and fill in what you're already doing, is what I've seen from the business perspective. And that's what we're helping to create with OPPER.
Yeah, and I think that one of the key, a couple of things that you said in there, like as far as like the ease of using the platform, because I noticed that when it comes to, working with, like athletes or just people that don't have a lot of time on their hands, like you can have resources for them that are beneficial, but if it's gonna, take, if they have to think about it too much, then, they're probably not gonna, follow through. And then what you talked about as far as, the athletes have to do some of the work themselves. Like it's not just about, promoting things. It's more so, you got to clean your pages up, or you have to, do, making yourself marketable. It's not as like overarching as we think about it, right? It's just taking the necessary steps to do it, but it's also using the little things, paying attention to the little things that you do every day. Like you said, whether it's, if you're into health and wellness, or if you're into, memorabilia, if you're into, cars, like being able to document that in a way, and it's like, you know, the companies or the opportunities will come to you.
That's why it's called OPPER.
There you go.
Opportunity, there you go. But again, they have such a limited time on their hands. So why not get a partnership that you're passionate about? And on
Right.
your free time, you're filming something that you're passionate about. Because if you're not, and if you don't like it, you don't like the brand, the outcome is not going to be good. So
And talk to me a little bit about giving back. I know that if you have this, you have quarterly causes.
yeah,
How important is giving back, and you know, and what, you know, a little bit about like what quarterly causes focus on?
giving back is everything. I think that God gives us gifts, and how we use those gifts is a gift back to Him. And so if I didn't have my internship personally, I would not be where I was today. So I now have an internship program, and we have 4 interns every single quarter. So that's quite a bit every single year, but we tailor that experience so that it better prepares them, just like I had, for a career after college or whatever it is they want to go to. And with the quarterly causes, it's something I did from the very first day I opened up my agency. I knew it was something I wanted to do. Every single quarter, we pick an organization or charity or event that needs some extra help in the marketing department, or maybe they need some videos filmed or some content that we can provide for them free of charge. And it's just something we do to give back to the community and different organizations that are making a difference. So it's our way of giving back. So there's 2 different things that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's the, you know, the biggest thing that, you know, that I think we often, you know, miss as professionals, is that I think that we gain a lot more from giving. You know, it's not just about,
Yes.
you know, hitting a certain mark, or, you know, saying I want to, you know, have a, you know, a lot of money, whatever. We all want those things, but I think ultimately our success is dependent upon how many people we can put in place, you know, to receive certain opportunities and help benefit their life versus ours. And that's something that, you know, a lot of people miss. But I think with quarterly causes, fitting that into your agency, I think that that takes it to another level, because you're creating that pipeline of, you know, the
Mhm.
next professionals that are, you know, going to come and make their mark within, you know, within sports. So I think that that's huge.
And I think, the purpose of life is to just leave the world a little bit better than it was before you got here. So every single day, that's why our mission is changing you internally so that you can change your world around them. We come in and just help with the marketing piece. We'll take over your PR. We'll do your influencer management. For athletes, we will take over that sponsorship burden for you. We'll help with your social media. We'll run your camp for you. We'll help you with your resume and getting a job so that you can still make your biggest impact on your clients, your teams, your fans, whoever it may be.
And as an entrepreneur, one of the things I'm fascinated with a lot of, you know, a lot of people that I bring on the show, I always wanted to know, like, you know, there's this in sports, I always talk about this example. I believe it was Jordan Palmer. He was talking about Tom Brady and how, you know, Tom Brady's not the fastest, he's not the strongest, he's not the quickest. It's his habits that makes him, you know, different, or makes him, the GOAT, or the best at what he does as being a
Mhm.
quarterback. As an entrepreneur, what are some of the habits that have like led to your success, that have been pivotal for you, you know, in your career?
I love that question. I mean, there's so many different things. You have to always be open to opportunities. You can't do anything by yourself. I mean, you can, but to a certain extent, in order to grow, it's about the network of people you have around you. And something my mom would always tell me is you become the 10 or 5, I don't remember. Most people, you become a combination of those 10 people that you hang around the most. So who are you hanging out with? I saw a video the other day. If a flower doesn't grow, is it because of the environment, or are you not watering it? You know what I mean? So you have to surround yourself with people that are better than you. You never want to be the smartest person in the room, because then you're in the wrong room. You want to keep growing, you want to keep doing things, and you never want to be stagnant. And so that's something that is always resonating with me, because if I am just stagnant, something's wrong and I need to make a change. There's always things you can be doing to improve your knowledge, to grow yourself in some way, to help someone else, or to maybe guide someone else. And, it starts with waking up early. It starts with being on top of whatever you have to do in that day. Make a to do list the night before and get everything done, and then make another list and make sure you get it done tomorrow. But also have a bigger picture in mind. You should work every day towards something bigger than tomorrow. That's
Mm.
what I always think. I had PO3 agency. I love it so much and it's doing amazing. But the next thing was OPPER. And now I'm thinking of 5 different things. You know what I mean? So never settle with where you are right now, because 10 years from now, you're going to be so much better, but you have to prepare for that time. And those are probably big ones, but also don't get caught up in what everyone else is doing around you, because you should know your path, you should know where you're going. And if you're outgrowing your friends, that's okay. Find new ones. Don't leave them behind, but sometimes you just have to kind of work like this, and they'll always be your ride or die. They'll always be there for you, but sometimes those aren't the people that you need to keep growing into what you're becoming. And it's like a marathon. You know, you're running, you have that goal in mind, and there's people cheering you on the side, and they're handing you the water, they're handing you the oranges, they're cheering you on, but then you keep running, you know, and then people are cheering for the people behind you, and that's who they need at the time. And then you keep going and going like that until you get to whatever your finish line is, but I don't have one, you know, and you just got to keep going. So those are some good ones.
Absolutely. No, I think that the one that stuck out to me is the, being able to focus on what you're doing and not getting caught up in what everyone else is doing. Because I think that,
Mhm.
it's like social media has allowed us to have access to everyone. And so just because you have access to everyone, it's so easy to kind of get distracted or compare. But I think if
Yeah.
you are able to, understand, what works for you, or what your process is, and what
Mhm.
benefits you, not only you, but what your big vision is, like you mentioned, then you're able to kind of not get distracted as much. Because I see that a lot with individuals, and even myself, I've struggled with that as far as like comparing. And I know I'm not the only one, so I think that that
Yeah.
is a strong habit to have, as far as focusing on what you have.
There's room for everyone. I mean, a lot of people are doing the same thing, even, with podcasts and agencies and stuff. Everyone has something going on, but there's still a place and there's still an audience for everybody. So don't be competitive, don't compare, cheer people on, because at the end of the day, that's going to be, you want to be that positive person, the positive impact, someone that lifts everyone up, no matter if someone's tearing you down.
Absolutely. What is some advice that you would give to, whether it's students or just, individuals that, could be, professionals that have had years of experience, they're looking to break into sports. What is some advice you would give to those individuals?
Oh, I've got some good ones. Okay. One thing that worked for me, I graduated during COVID. So there were no job interviews, there was no shadowing or things like that. And, I had a bunch of time on my hands. I was doing online school. So I spent hours on LinkedIn. I messaged probably 100 to 150 people to like every single day, and I would do research on, the organization. I say, okay, today's a baseball day. I'm focusing on the Dodgers. I'd go through their list of jobs that I was interested in, and I would just reach out to the people and I said, "Hi, my name's Jessica Campbell. I'm a senior at Pepperdine University looking to get into the sports industry. If you have 10 minutes this upcoming week, I would love to just pick your brain and ask you some questions." You would be so surprised with how generous people are with their time and their information and, you know, their businesses. And it just opened up so many doors for me on top of experiences and networking and relationships. I was able to see, okay, this is something I could do. This is something I could not do. This is a sport that I could see myself in every single day. This one's not. For me, I could never do the hours of baseball. It's crazy long hours. And some of the people that are in there, they love the game, and I love the game, but I don't love the game. And so that's when I knew, okay, I didn't know at that time that I was going to be doing what I am. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not going to work in baseball, but I know that I can have a career in football or basketball or hockey or something like that. And so it was about listening to their experiences, learning from other people that are doing it, and see, how did you get your start? What was your journey like? What is your day to day like? Because then you can start mapping out, okay, this person started in ticket sales and now they're doing this. This person started in, membership services, and then they started here. So you kind of create this roadmap for yourself after you do that. And that's kind of what I had. And I'm like, on like those CSI things, and you're looking and you're like, okay, so this person started here and got here. They started here and got here, but they had this journey along the way. And so many people don't want to start at the bottom. It's like this weird mentality that they have right now, and everyone's entitled, and they want to just become a general manager, but the general manager worked in ticket sales, and then you have to work your way up. So it's, not every general manager worked in ticket sales, but it's about, starting somewhere and just keep building and building and building. And so what I would recommend to every single student that wants to be part of any industry, not even the sports industry, do your research and talk to people that are already in it, because keeping that relationship with them also can also get you a job in the future if you hold on to that networking pretty well. And you can't learn by yourself. Like I always say, other people that have done it are going to give you great advice. And so you're not going to get a job in the sports industry by yourself. You're just not. It's all about who you know. It's a relationship industry, and it's a very small, once you're in it, you know everybody in it, and people talk. And so you have to be kind to everyone, knowledgeable, like I said in the beginning, know your stuff, present yourself well, and just ask questions. You should always ask questions.
Absolutely. And were there, do you recommend like any like books or like podcasts that have like helped you as far as like building those skills that you have now as just like an entrepreneur and someone that's in the sports industry?
Yes, one of the biggest ones I have is called, oh shoot, what is it called? It's something about the power of negative thinking, I think, by Bob Knight.
Okay.
And he talks about his time with, his winning basketball program in Indiana. And it goes through his career, but not in the way you would think. It's all about how he thought negatively. So what that means is he thought of all of the things that could go wrong, every single aspect that could make them lose a game. And so for that whole week of practice before that game, he would focus on combating every single attack basically that the other team could bring to them. And he said, okay, they're better at rebounding. We're going to only practice this that whole week. And so it definitely helps me with my business and with the athletes and with sponsorships, especially with the camps. I'm able to create this image, and I'm sitting back and I say, okay, this can go wrong, this can go wrong, and this can go wrong. What can I do right now so that that never is even a possibility? And that's one of the biggest things I think about every single day as I'm doing things. It's that, how can I better prepare so that X, Y, and Z doesn't happen and ABC does? So that's a huge one. And then also Think and Grow Rich is a really, really good book too, I think, by Napoleon Hill. Definitely recommend that one.
Absolutely. And so this portion of the interview, we call it wearing the jersey. So it's
Okay.
quick hitter questions, and you just answer them to the best of your ability.
Okay.
So favorite pair of sneakers all time?
Oh, I've got to say those new Dodger Jackie Robinson ones. Those are so
Okay.
cool.
Okay. Are those are those dunks
No, they're
specifically?
coming out. Yeah, they're dunks, but they're
Okay.
coming out. They're not out yet,
Okay. All right.
but I
Um,
need them.
favorite jersey of all time?
Anything from Kobe.
What would the title of your memoir be called?
These are deep, quick questions. I don't know. Rise and grind.
Favorite sports memory of all time?
Raptors winning the championship.
What professional athlete best represents your approach to life?
This is going to sound so conceited, but I think Kobe. It's all about working hard, and I'm not the most talented, but I know how to apply the skills that I do have.
Who is a person in sports that you would like to work with?
I mean, Jeannie Buss is amazing, but one of my former teachers at Pepperdine was Ned Colletti, former GM of the Dodgers, and he taught me so much, and he's one of the greatest mentors out there. And if I could have had the chance to work under him, I think that would have been amazing.
And my next question is, who should be a guest on the show?
Who should be a guest on the show? Okay, I have clients named Justin and Joe, and they run a facility called Create Monsters, and they work with professional athletes and college athletes and just training them, and they're amazing. So I think they would be a good guest.
Perfect. Well, Jessica, those are all the questions that I have from wearing the jersey. Thank you so much for coming on to the show and just sharing so much wisdom about your journey and the lessons that you've learned along the way. Where can everyone find you on social media, and where can they reach you?
So my personal Instagram is at jess.campbell, like the soup 3, and then my company's Instagram is P3 agency, and OPPERS is _OPPER_.
All right. Best of luck to you with OPPER and that launch and just other business ventures that you have. I know that you're going to be successful with just the energy and knowledge that you have. And again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.